Hi, I'm Matthew Burchett, and this is a special Huey edition of Behind the Wings. Oh yeah. So this is going to be one of my favorite episodes, because who doesn't love the Huey? If you know anything about the Vietnam War, you have seen thousands of pictures of these guys all over the country doing all sorts of crazy things. But guess what? This is even a cooler episode because we've got two Vietnam helicopter Huey pilots that are with us today. This is gonna be awesome. But before we get to them, let's go check out some of the salient features of this aircraft. So what got this thing moving? This baby right here, a Lycoming L13 1400 horsepower jet turbine engine. That is awesome, but even more awesome is it swung those 47-foot blades at 6,600 revolutions per minute. Now, what you didn't know is this is a Mike model, an M model, which was made specifically as a gunship, which means it's got a kind of an interesting rotor head. It's a 540 rotor head, which gives the blades way more play on the left, right, front, and back. That's because these guys carried a ton of ammunition, and you needed to be as maneuverable as possible, because 1400 horsepower sounds like a lot, but when you're carrying rockets and machine gun ammo and a bunch of people, that's not a lot of power. Plus, you got the humidity of Vietnam. That's not good for lift either. All right, people, this is the good stuff. I am here with a real live helicopter pilot who was in Vietnam. And you did how many tours?
Three
tours. This is Colonel Bill McPherson. Thank you so much for being with us here today. This is a huge honor because I hate to say it, but I consider you a friend of mine.
We'll think about that one.
Okay.
All right.
Now, going back to the history of this thing, this guy actually flew in Vietnam.
It was built in 1967 by Bell Helicopter in Fort Worth, Texas. So it went directly to Vietnam in 1967 and was issued and assigned to the 1st Battalion, 9th Air Cavalry Regiment, 1st Air Cavalry Division, Air Cavalry Division. So
no horses, just helicopters.
That's right, that's right. And it served for 3 years.
Wow.
Combat. It has 21 bullet holes to verify its combat time. It was used extensively as support for ground troops who needed gun support. It escorted troop-carrying aircraft. It escorted medical evacuation aircraft and was extremely busy for 3 years,
wow,
which takes a toll on the mechanics, the turbine, the rotor systems. So at the end of 3 years, it was shipped back to Bell Helicopter for rebuild in Amarillo, Texas. The war was winding down at that time. It was 1971 then. And as the war was winding down, they decided not to send it back to Vietnam, but issue it to the National Guard. So it was issued to the Nebraska Army National Guard in 1971. And it flew with the National Guard for many, many years and was maintained quite well. And it was in 1996 that it was directed to fly to White Sands to become part of this target drone program. And as the program was canceled a few years later, it sat there on the airfield until I was able to retrieve it.
Well, tell you what, do you want to do a little quick walk around and
Sure.
we can actually take a look at some of these places where it was shot? All right, so we discussed earlier this is a Mike model, which means it was purpose-built to be a gunship, and well, you can see it's loaded for bear. Down here are two M60 flex mount machine guns. That's a 7.62 millimeter machine gun, and they were actually on a mount, two on each side, that allowed them to move left and right and up and down. Not a lot, but just enough that you didn't have to really aim the helicopter as much as you would if they were a fixed mount. Now, inboard of the machine guns is something even scarier. 7-shot rocket pod with 2.75-inch folding fin aerial rockets. These guys were monsters. They could carry a high explosive warhead, white phosphorus, or even scarier, this guy, 2,200 in each rocket of a flechette. Think of it as a tiny steel arrow. This would just denude the countryside of any vegetation and anybody in it. Super scary. But what's this bad boy right here? It's just a door-mounted M60, and the M60 is the same thing that this guy was. This is in the infantry configuration. So if these guys went down, you could literally dismount this weapon and use it to defend yourself from the bad guys. So how much ammunition could these guys actually carry? Well, for example, this box right here will carry 500 belted 7.62 rounds. A lot of guys would carry 80 to 90 of these boxes to feed these behemoths down here. That's a lot of ammunition. But you gotta keep in mind, you can't just load yourself down with ammo, because you gotta keep fuel in mind. And if you got a long mission, you gotta have more fuel and less ammo. But if you got a short mission, you can really load up on this and stay on station for quite a bit longer. We are here with Lieutenant Colonel Ken Overturf. Thank you so much for being with us, sir. I'm gonna take this thing off my head. It's very cool though. You flew H models, and you flew for Project Left Bank.
That's correct.
And that was looking for radio signals and...
Locating the enemy via radio intercepts.
And where were you doing that?
At that time, the 1st Cavalry Division, the unit that I flew with, was headquartered in Phuoc Vinh, Vietnam, in the War Zone C, right about the middle of South Vietnam.
Okay. What was it like to fly this thing? Do you miss it?
Absolutely do. The feeling of power, being able to maneuver a 4,000-pound object in the air, and being able to maneuver in ways that fixed-wing aircraft are never able to do.
Yeah. So, for our viewers, and especially me, can you take us through kind of what it's like, some tips and tricks on how to fly the Huey?
Let's do a brief helicopter flying 101.
Excellent.
3 maneuver controls on this helicopter. We'll go through them one at a time.
Okay.
Starting with the first one is the cyclic, the stick, if you will, right between your legs. This cyclic provides the horizontal movement in the helicopter. And how it does that is when the rotor head is spinning at its operational RPM of 6,600 revolutions per minute, it becomes like a giant dinner plate. And you can envision this giant dinner plate.
Okay.
Now, with this cyclic, what you're doing is balancing that giant dinner plate. Tip the cyclic forward, the dinner plate tips forward, and the aircraft moves forward. Left, right. Next control is the collective. This control gives your vertical movement capability. When you're ready to go up, pull the collective up, and it puts pitch in the blades of that spinning plate. Then we go to the third control, which are the anti-torque pedals. The torque, the power torque caused by the power when you're putting pitch in the blades moves us into Newton's third law of motion. For every action, the rotor head spinning counterclockwise, an equal and opposite reaction, the fuselage would tend to turn clockwise.
Okay.
So to fly this helicopter, all you have to do is balance the dinner plate, manage your vertical and ascent descent, and keep the nose straight with the pedals all the time.
Oh, well, that's not hard. Holy cow. You're gonna shake my hand or not?
Well, I thought about it, but
In fuller. You heard it. You heard it. He'll never say a nice thing about me again. I told you this was going to be my favorite episode. Who doesn't love the Huey? And I love this old girl. And frankly, I love you guys too.
our pleasure.
Colonel Bill, Colonel Ken, thank you guys so much. And thank you for tuning in to Behind the Wings. And as always, if you've got questions or comments, hit us up on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page, and we'll get back to you. Stay tuned, we got way more cool stuff coming.